you want to become a data scientist, data analyst, or data engineer, you know there are a lot of tools that you have to master. For example, Python, SQL, Tableau, Power BI, AWS, Azure, GCP, and the list goes on. The real question is, do I have to master all these tools, or is there any order of priority that I can follow? In this video, I'm gonna rank 25 such important tools that are used in the data industry, and I'm gonna rank from S tier to D tier, S being the most critical and D being the less priority one. I hope by end of this video, you're gonna get a detailed list along with my explanation, so you can start learning all these tools from top to bottom approach. Without any delay, let's get started. Let's say you're in the top 1 percentile expert in one of these tools. Obviously, you're gonna use that tool in some niche job role that you have. But this video is specifically for someone who is new to this data analytics or data science field, who are trying to learn all these tools. So this video can help them to learn on which order they should learn all these tools. We are going to rank all these tools based on two things: how easy it is to learn the tool, and what is the necessity of the tool in the market today. So let's go with the most important tool in the data industry, SQL. Whether you are a data analyst, data engineer, or data scientist, you're gonna use this tool every single day. So if you're watching this video without knowing the basics of SQL, I would say just pause this video, go to YouTube, type for SQL tutorial and start learning SQL. You can't avoid SQL. So obviously SQL is gonna go for S tier for me. Second important tool is Excel, Microsoft Excel. Whatever role you are in, whether it's in finance, sales, marketing, you're gonna use Excel every single day, particularly to do a little bit of analysis, just to take a look at your data. Excel has become like a corporate tool that everyone uses. Even data analysts and in the data science team, people use it. But there are other tools which are gonna make your life easier than Excel. You can do all the things which you can do on Excel using the other tools which we are going to talk in this video. But still, Excel is a simple tool where you can run your first analysis. But since there are alternative for this tool, I'm not going to keep this tool to an S tier. Well, it's still good to have the Excel skills. You don't need to know the advanced Excel, or you don't need to know how to create a pivot table or more complicated things. Knowing how Excel works and to do some preliminary things on Excel are gonna help you. Speaking of advanced tools, here we have Python. So if you are a data aspirant, I'm pretty sure you started your first video how to learn Python. Whether you are a data scientist, data engineer, Python is gonna be in your daily life. If you started your career in data as a data analyst 5 or 6 years back, you had an option to ignore Python. A lot of data analysts I know today, they just use Excel and other data viz tools to do their analysis. People who are starting their career today, they are very proficient in Python. Even if you want to become a data analyst today and you want to compete with the market, you should know Python. And Python, obviously, it's going to go to the S tier. A good alternative for Python was R programming. So 5 years back, if you go on YouTube, this was a controversial question. A lot of people started asking Python or R programming. Which one should I learn? What is going to be the future? Today we know, because we know what is the most important language today, and by default everyone is teaching data using Python. But R had its legacy once upon a time. Even today it has been used in academic institutions. Even few companies use R programming, but I think they are just lazy to shift from R to Python because they've written their entire code base on it. Today, if any industry start a new project, they're going to use Python, specifically in the data field. It's fine if you don't learn R programming. I choose to skip it, so I'm going to rank it D tier. Let's talk about the important tools that a data analyst must know: Tableau and Power BI. For those who don't know, Tableau is a Salesforce product, Power BI is a Microsoft product. If you're a data scientist, there are other ways to visualize your data, and you can use some Python libraries to do that. It's not really important or necessary for you to learn Tableau and Power BI. Still recommend you to learn so that you can build some cool and pretty dashboards with that. If you're a data engineer, most probably you're not going to use Tableau and Power BI in your career. But if you're a data analyst, this is where you're going to spend most of your time. But the question is, should I learn Tableau or Power BI? Even today, a lot of people are asking this question. So 5 years back or something, Tableau had a huge market share, but today Power BI is competing with Tableau, and today I feel both of them have equal market share. And it doesn't matter which one you learn, it is going to be an interchangeable skill. Just learning one, the second one is going to be easier for you. So I would suggest learn whatever you like, whatever the UI you like, or whatever you feel is easier. So I'm going to rank both Tableau and Power BI in A tier. So we have talked about the tools that are necessary for data analysts. Let's come back to tools that are necessary for data scientists, which is Pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib. If you want to become a data scientist, I think this is the second step that you would have taken. After learning Python, you're going to learn the Python libraries, which are important. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos about Pandas versus NumPy and Matplotlib. It's like a long tutorial in a single video, and that's how I learned Python libraries like Pandas, NumPy, and Matplotlib. So let's start with Pandas. Pandas is a very good alternative for a lot of tools that we saw that we have already ranked. Not learn SQL, Excel, even Tableau sometimes use Pandas to do all those things. Question is, Pandas is a versatile tool. It can replace a lot of tools that we have ranked already. If you are a data scientist, you're going to use this tool every single day. If you're a data engineer, you're still going to use this tool. But the question is, if you're a data analyst, should I use or learn this tool? I would highly recommend you to learn Pandas. Help you to do some complicated analysis just using a notebook, and it's very much faster than using SQL or Excel. For me, Pandas is going to be an S tier. So next one is NumPy. This is a little controversial because NumPy is harder to learn than Pandas. The syntax is going to be difficult unless you want to do some complicated mathematical calculations like building some machine learning model from scratch or something. Pandas is a very good alternative. For those who don't know, Pandas is built on top of NumPy. Pandas has an easier syntax than NumPy, but the challenge is Pandas is very limited to the skills. So you can't do a more complicated mathematical calculation using Pandas. NumPy is going to help you to do that. Since we are also going to rank based on ease of use, once you go to the intermediate or advanced level, you can learn NumPy. For now, I'm going to put NumPy in C tier. You can survive without the skill NumPy just by using Pandas unless you want to work on any complicated mathematical equations. So next one is Matplotlib, and I have also added Seaborn. So Matplotlib, Seaborn is built on top of Matplotlib. Seaborn is a very much better alternative for Matplotlib because of the syntax. It has an easier syntax, but Matplotlib is more versatile. I'm going to rank Matplotlib and Seaborn in the same tier. For those who don't know, Matplotlib and Seaborn are to plot graphs to visualize your data using Python. This is a very much good alternative for Tableau and Power BI if you are a data scientist. You already have an alternative for this. You can use Tableau and Power BI to do the data viz. This is not highly necessary since you already have that skill. I'm going to rank this in B tier. Also Seaborn and B tier. If you want the ease of use, easier syntax, go with Seaborn. You will go with Matplotlib. I would say learn both Matplotlib and Seaborn, the basics of it, and you can use both during your analysis. The next one is scikit-learn. I think this is the most easiest thing to learn as a data scientist. These tools are specifically for data scientists. If you're a data engineer, most probably you're not going to use this. Even if you're a data analyst, you're not going to use this. So if you are confused, why am I saying like data analyst, data scientist, and data engineer? And if you have a question, is there real difference between all these things? Comment down below. I'm going to make a separate detailed video on what exactly is the difference between these three titles. So coming back, scikit-learn is the machine learning library, the default machine learning library that every data scientist uses. If you already know the theory behind machine learning, you know how all these machine learning algorithms work. Scikit-learn is nothing but just to import, fit, and predict machine learning model running. So this is the most easiest thing considering that you have ML theory knowledge already. This is going to be the most important skill as a data scientist. So I'm going to rank this in A tier. Coming back to TensorFlow, PyTorch, and Keras. These three libraries are going to help you to work on neural networks or deep learning. I would say if you are a data scientist, if you're a data analyst, you're not going to work on this. If you're a data engineer, you're not going to work on this. This is specifically for data scientists. Not every data scientist uses deep learning or neural networks technically, unless you want to build some Gen AI models or fine-tune some models. You don't need to know TensorFlow or PyTorch or Keras. You can use this to understand the underlying architecture. You can build new models based on this. If you are a traditional data scientist, most probably you can solve all the problems using traditional machine learning, scikit-learn library. So TensorFlow and PyTorch and Keras are not going to be a necessity for you if you are a data scientist. as I said, there is always going to be an exception. If you want to become a computer vision engineer or natural language work on NLP or something very niche, I'm just talking about a traditional data scientist role, you can survive without knowing all these three things. So because of that, I'm not going to give a higher ranking for this, but how to rank these three things. If you don't know, TensorFlow is from Google, PyTorch is from Facebook, and Keras is built on top of TensorFlow. If you ask me, Keras is the most easiest thing to learn among these three. If I've learned all the tools already, I would learn Keras first and then go with either PyTorch or TensorFlow, doesn't matter, both are very famous in its own way. I'm gonna rank Keras in B tier and TensorFlow in C tier and PyTorch in C tier. And remember, we are just talking about data scientists here. If you wanna work on more deep learning engineer, computer vision engineer, Keras, PyTorch or TensorFlow is gonna be a must use tool in your career. So we talked about the tools used by data analysts, we talked about the tools used by data scientists. Now it's time to talk about the tools used by data engineer. Most probably a data engineer uses these two tools, Spark and Apache Airflow. So if you're working on large amount of data, Spark is kind of similar to Pandas, but if you're working on large amount of data, Spark is going to be much more faster than Pandas. So if you're a data analyst, if you're a data scientist, you can choose to ignore this. But if you're a data engineer, this is going to be most important skill. I'm going to give a rank to this. And Apache Airflow, this is an open source data orchestration tool used by data engineers. There are other alternatives for this. Major cloud providers are providing separate services for this. We are going to come there right in a second. But this is a free tool. If you want to work on some personal projects, you can use Airflow to do those projects, but industries are not using Airflow, prefer going with paid service from AWS or Azure or GCP. But since it's an open source and very much good alternative for the services provided by AWS, Azure or GCP, which is going to help you to build projects, I'm going to give B tier for this. We're going to talk about the three major cloud providers, AWS, Azure and GCP. So we all have this question, as a data scientist, should I learn AWS or Azure or GCP? Should I learn any cloud technologies at all? If you're a data engineer, this is a must. This is the most important skill as a data engineer. But if you're a data scientist, you can choose to skip this because it's not a necessity. Really good for you to learn AWS, Azure or GCP because you are going to build machine learning models. It's always better if you also know how to deploy them. So based on the market share, AWS holds the majority of the market share today, followed by Azure and followed by GCP. So if I were you, but that doesn't mean that the company that you are interviewing is using Azure. Probability is more that they use AWS, but it's not a guaranteed one. And also it is an interchangeable skill. If you learn one of these cloud providers services, it's going to be just the name is going to change and everything else will be the same. So if I were you, I would start learning AWS first. So I'm going to rank it in A tier, followed by Azure, B tier, and GCP C tier. Not because of how easy it is to learn, but because of the market share. If you have to learn one, I would learn AWS today. Databricks and Snowflake. So these two tools are pretty new tools in data field today. 5-6 years back, I'm pretty sure this tool never existed or people were not speaking about this. So Databricks is a data engineering tool which is going to make your life easier, building pipelines, etc. Snowflake is a data warehousing tool and you use SQL on top of this. It's like a database management system and data warehousing tool. It is not necessary for you to learn these two tools because let's say your company uses this, you can any day start your work and learn this in a day or two. You can learn the basics of this in a day or two. I would suggest you to spend your time on learning the other tools which we have ranked already. So I'm going to rank these two things in a D tier. So next tool is Git. I feel a lot of people are not speaking about this. Even before I started my internship, I was not an expert in Git. I just knew the basics of Git because Git is a tool which is going to make your collaborative work easier. So if you're working in an industry and working with multiple people, you can't ignore Git. Git is going to be your primary tool in every project. As a data scientist or data engineer, your skill is a must to work with your teammates. But it is not very important for your personal projects. So because of that, a lot of people tend to ignore this. And also, most probably, they're not going to ask this in the interview and you can join the company and start learning it in the first week or something. Since it's not a necessity for you to learn today, because you can always join the company and learn, or you can learn during your internship or something. This is not going to be next year because this is not like a highly necessity today. You can join the company and learn this later, or you can learn during your internship. It is easy to learn Git when you are working on a collaborative environment, which is for most people is not possible when you are doing your personal projects. So I'm going to rank Git and beat you. So finally, 3 tools which are going to help you to work on the project: VS Code, Jupyter Notebook, and Google Colab. I think I'm going to start a war in the data community by ranking these 3 things. I used to work on Jupyter Notebooks whenever I do a personal project. To go platform is Jupyter Notebook, and then I started VS Code. When I mean VS Code, it can be any alternative for VS Code like PyCharm or whatever code interpreter that you like. And I realized that VS Code has so much more functionality than Jupyter Notebook. Of course, Jupyter Notebook has its own benefits like extensions. For example, extension is a very good one, which is not available on VS Code. Jupyter VS Code has its own extensions, but Jupyter Notebook has extensions specifically to increase the ergonomics of your Python notebooks. But still, whenever I start a project today, I don't go with the Jupyter Notebook. Instead, I'll just start my work with VS Code, and it's not very hard to learn. It will take like 1 or 2 hours for you to understand how the UI of VS Code looks. Trust me, if you're working on a new project tomorrow, start using VS Code and you'll definitely love it. Because of that reason, I'm gonna give VS Code a A tier. It's just my personal favorite. You try it out, I'm pretty sure you'll tell the same. I think it's been 2 years since I opened any Jupyter Notebook. Because of that reason, I'm gonna give a C tier for Jupyter Notebook. And Google Colab, I would rate Google Colab as same as Jupyter Notebook. But with this Gen AI, and if you wanna train any fine-tuning or train any models like Gen AI models today, Google Colab has amazing virtual GPUs which you can use. Even it's been 2 years since I used Google Colab. Last year, when Gen AI came out, when I was trying some projects, my computer was not good enough to do those projects, and Google Colab helped me with its virtual RAMs and GPUs and made it possible for me to work on the Gen AI projects. So because of that reason, I'm gonna give B tier to Google Colab. So we have the 25 data tools ranked from S tier to D tier. If you're starting from scratch, go from S tier, start learning all the tools that I mentioned from top to bottom approach. I hope you understood the reasoning behind the ranking. If you have any alternative opinion about these things, comment down below and tell which of these you don't agree. If you want to rearrange any of these rankings, what tools would you rank differently? Also tell those things along with your personal experiences and your detailed explanations, so that it's going to be helpful for a lot of data aspirants. Pause this video, take a screenshot of this, have a wonderful journey in this data industry. Good luck. Bye.